Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Welcome back to the MOVIEVERSE podcast show. Now, this is the podcast where me and my co-host, Big Nasty Productions, we talk about films in a spoiler-tastic manner, so there's your spoiler alert first and foremost. And today we're talking about a film called Straight Outta Compton. A brother that... No, sorry. Now, this is the film about the rap duo from the early 90s who popularized G-rap, as it's known. I'm saying this in the whitest way possible. But
yeah, probably.
We're talking about N.W.A. and the film Straight Outta Compton, directed by F. Gary. Interesting name. Which is, of course, the story of N.W.A. Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Easy fucking E, MC Ren, and DJ Yella. Even though they're not as important.
What a terrible thing to say. They're not as important in the film.
In the film, I believe they're very important to the group, but this film mainly centers around Dre, Easy, and Ice Cube and how they came together to form N.W.A. and the ripple effect that had on hip hop and rap in the
culture around it.
It popularized gangster rap. Basically, it was they kicked it off. Led the way for, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and of course, Dre went on to do Aftermath and signed Eminem, etc., etc. And, this is the story of the origin of gangster rap in a lot of ways. And I think it's pretty good. Not a perfect movie by any means, but it's a competent, decent music drama, I think. And there's a lot of fun in it as well. What did you think of Straight Outta Compton?
I would agree with you for the most part, but I mean, at a certain point, I thought it was pretty badly paced, and I thought it felt like it was just bits stuck together as opposed to a full kind of, linear story. And I mean, I understand that it is a biopic, so you're trying to tell, individual pieces of each person's story. Right? And I also didn't like that they did just focus on pretty much Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and Ice Cube, as opposed to really fixating on them as a group instead of they kind of still tried to single them out as individuals, especially amongst the three when it came down to the contract disputes and everything that caused them initially breaking up, and Dre going to death row, and Ice Cube starting his whatever the fuck it was called, I don't remember.
That's when he did America's Most Wanted and albums like that.
But, I mean, like you said, I guess it is kind of a fun film, but as far as a technical standpoint, I feel it's very standard, if not subpar, as opposed to biopics that are coming out in Hollywood, because it did very, very well in the box office.
I'm glad to see it did so well. Yeah. It, especially with only an apparent budget of $30 million, and it brought home close to $200 million, and that's a raging success, if you will. My love of hip hop is definitely going to play a factor in it. This is some of my favorite music in a musical biopic ever. That's just because I like this style of music. I didn't necessarily grow up with N.W.A, but I did grow up with Dre's 2001 and Eminem's first couple albums, stuff like that. So I do love this music, but as purely a film, you're right. Pacing issues, especially in the latter half of the film,
definitely
are damn near montagey. Just because this is a problem with all these movies, all these biopic giant ass stories, right? Is that they try to include all the major points in these guys' career when they've had a long ass careers and very different careers where they've split up and got back together and started their own labels and all, Suge Knight being a cocksucker and all this crazy shit that happened with these guys, and it tries to just cover as much of that as they can, but especially in the latter half, it's like, oh yeah, you remember Snoop Dogg, you remember Tupac, you remember this bullshit with Suge Knight?
Yeah, it feels like it's just thrown in there.
Eazy has AIDS, he's gonna, and they tried to do a lot in a little time, especially in the last half. I did quite enjoy the first half, where it was like, I don't know, the Avengers of hip hop almost, where they're getting the group together and the writing of the first album and stuff like that. That was my favorite part of the film. But you're right, as it continues, it gets choppier and choppier.
Well, and I mean, even upon rewatch, and don't get me wrong, I love all the fucking Raiders gear. As a Raiders fan, of course, you have to love the Raiders gear. But I feel like that's the only thing it kind of hopes for. It did a great job of grabbing on it, but it's people's nostalgia for either, N.W.A. the group and, the influence they had on all of hip hop. Because again, I'm also a huge fan of hip hop as well. You know that. But I still when I keep going back to it as a film, I mean, it's really not that great.
No,
Some of the performances are good, and then again, some of them fall off at very monumental moments. Like for instance, O'Shea Jackson, which is Ice Cube's son, right? I feel like when he does the scene inside of Buddy's office with the baseball bat, so
smashing shit.
It comes off really corny to me. I feel like he really didn't deliver on that one, as opposed to the rest of the film, where and the ending. The end for most of them, I feel just fell completely flat, and as a performance standpoint.
Yeah, Dre's ending was the only one that was like the drop the mic moment, because we all know what happened with Aftermath and Suge Knight after that. But you're right, like it I don't know, performance wise, I guess we can talk some performances. Of course, we should mention first and foremost O'Shea Jackson's performance. Definitely nailed the look, and that is, of course, no surprise, because he's Ice Cube's own son.
Ice Cube with Jerry curls.
Yeah, he's playing the old school Cube, the one we all know and love before he, before Friday, before all of the shit he's doing nowadays. Not that I don't dislike it.
That's what they're called, isn't it? Where it's all greased up. It's Jerry curl.
Jerry
That's
curls.
what I thought. Yeah.
I think so. I could be wrong.
I wouldn't really know. So
obviously. Yeah, his performance was alright. I don't think he doesn't come from an acting background, of course. He comes from being Ice Cube's son, so he definitely has the experience to play Ice Cube, for sure. I don't think he's an excellent actor, but he did an okay job. Who else do we have? We have Corey Hawkins, I believe.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah, he played Dre, and he's actually like a theater actor, actually. He's a young theater actor, and he comes right from like Romeo and Juliet, stuff like that, which is an odd choice for him, but I think he did an okay job of encompassing the street, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm just making fun of him being a theater nerd, but he does an okay job of Dre, I think. I don't know. Again, with the pacing, it kind of skims across parts of Dre's life where, his brother dies and stuff like that, which are pretty monumental moments.
It just jumps them. Like,
it did, yeah. It's like, here they are, and then boom, cut to whatever. And it doesn't really give him enough time to nail those performances. I think he does an alright job. He's pretty good, Dre. And E, the guy who played Jason Mitchell, is that him?
Jason Mitchell.
Yes, Jason Mitchell. What'd you think of him? He's not...
I honestly thought he did the best job out of all of them.
Yeah. I think he brought the most charisma to the roles, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. He's the one to me that really felt genuine, especially in a lot of the scenes, especially in the scene where they come to pick up that bitch from the hotel room. And I don't mean a bitch as in women. I'm just saying a bitch because that's what that bitch is. But... yeah. And they come in the hotel room, and he comes around, he's like, oh, fucking, you want to play type shit? Got the guns out. I thought that he pulled that off real well, as opposed to O'Shea Jackson's baseball bat.
Yes, that's a perfect example. I thought that O'Shea Jackson's baseball bat scene, where I'm sure it actually happened, or in some capacity, it really felt like unnecessary and a little out of place. Maybe if he
from my understanding, that did actually happen with Ice Cube.
I believe 100%. It did. Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure why they even need to present that in a positive way. Like, not everything these guys do is positive, and I don't know why it needs to be presented in a positive way. I already like all the guys, and I know all the bullshit they did. I know E sold crack, and Dre has, domestic dispute charges and shit like that. Like, I'm okay with presenting these guys as not perfect, and they kind of just, took only the best parts.
Well, that's the problem with hip-hop biopics in general. You saw it with Notorious as well.
Yeah.
I mean... when they eventually do, from somehow, one of the rumors is that this has a sequel of sorts, where it's going to be talking about, Tupac more and Snoop Dogg more, people like that, or it's going to be even later. I don't know, but
the money this made, I can see it happening. But
well, yeah, and I mean, there has to be a point where you look at it and you say, okay, some of these guys were pieces of shit, but they made good music. So
Yeah,
if you want to
and I'm
focus on
okay
the
with
music,
that.
yeah. So if you want to focus on the music, focus on the music, but don't paint them in this light like they were a fucking artistic genius and such sainthood. And if only they had different circumstances and yada yada yada. Because a lot of the time, that's not what it was with a lot of rappers and shit like that. And even if you're talking about rockers that died of drug overdoses and stuff like that, like your fucking
Exactly, right.
like you do like your Jim Morrisons or your Janis Joplins or Kurt Cobain's. You know what I mean? You just shoot yourself in the head. You can't. I feel like in a biopic, you have to try and be true to the subject at least a little bit, especially when so
Yeah.
much is already known about what their true nature was, opposed to what you're portraying in the film. It just, to me, it doesn't convey a sense of realness, and right there, you lose it as far as a biopic.
Yeah, I kind of agree for the most part. Like, everything was presented as them being in the right, more or less, or Cube being in the right for getting fucked over by his manager, or, you know. And I didn't think that was completely necessary because, they didn't actually make the manager be the all-out bad guy, which I thought was going to happen. But they still, like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with them being presented as, gangsta-ass motherfuckers from Compton. Like, that's what they were. They're a great artist, but they were also, they had these kind of lives that I don't think they should have shied away from in the film. I mean, they tried to incorporate some of E's early life where he was, a drug dealer and, getting tired of that life. And, of course, Dre having all sorts of problems just wanting to spin his music and being forced to wear those stupid Eddie Murphy-looking outfits. Well,
Here's the problem with that, though. Eazy-E's the only one that's dead. So,
Yep.
I mean...
He's the only one who can't speak for himself, right?
Exactly. He's the only one that they painted in a not so great light at certain points. And I mean, even then, they made it more comedic than anything. Mm-hmm. Really. Like, even him busting out of the crack house when they're going to rob his ass. You know what I mean? Like,
that was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That was an awesome scene.
Mm-hmm. Again, I liked his performance the best. I think he brought a lot of the humor to the group and a lot of, I don't know, he was... Because the character Eazy is kind of hilarious. He used drug money to fund a rap group and never planned on being a rapper and then turned into like an overnight superstar. Even though he's not lyrically gifted, but he has the persona to lead a rap group. And that's awesome. That's the American dream, right? And I thought he embodied that well, and he did probably the best performance in the film. Paul Giamatti was alright as well, even though...
Paul Giamatti always just is going to play Paul Giamatti slightly dressed as something different. That's just Paul Giamatti.
Right.
He's famously said before that he doesn't give a shit about like the real person. I don't think he used these words exactly, mind me, mind you, but fucking he basically says he doesn't he did, I tweeted it. No, he basically says that he doesn't care who he's playing, like he doesn't need to meet the person, any of that shit. He's going to do it his way anyways, which is essentially just Paul Giamatti being Paul Giamatti. So
yeah, pretty much. Even
that's what he delivers, and he's great at it.
Yeah, he is great at it. I love Paul Giamatti. Even in Saving Private Ryan, he's just Paul Giamatti with army gear on. He's not even shooting anybody. He's just in that one scene talking. Hilarious. But I thought he did a good job as Jerry, the manager who jumped on this once-in-a-lifetime deal, knowing fuck all about hip-hop and the life these guys lead and just trying to help them get their music out there. He took a cut. He's not ashamed to say that he did screw over these people.
That's what to say.
He did screw him over, and every music story has the manager fucked me point of the story, and this one's no exception.
Except for the fact that this one actually alludes to him actually doing that with Eazy-E,
yeah,
which was very odd. There is an odd sort of shift where they tried to sort of point a direction at this alleged homosexual relationship, it seemed, between Eazy-E and Jerry. Like, I don't understand where that kind of came from, where there was just that weird thing at the end with Jerry fucking, like basically crying at him and all that. So that was kind of odd, because I don't know where that came from, but
yeah.
I mean, I only say that because I read a bunch of reports that were calling it that, and when I look back at it, I'm like, I guess you could kind of see it that way. I wouldn't have thought that they were actually that close in real life.
Yeah, but who knows, right? Maybe they were.
you don't have Easy around so that he can
Easy did love to fuck, so you never know.
you don't have him around so he can comment on it at all. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Which, yeah, of course, the story kind of ends with that down note of
And let's not
E's
get
passing.
things twisted here. I mean, Jerry he basically is just an old Jewish dude who saw a sadistic way to take advantage of 4 fucking black dudes in the ghetto and did it.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He didn't give a shit if they got big or not. He got fucking lucky and hit the jackpot when they did.
He did get lucky.
You know.
He absolutely did, and he tries to help them. He definitely does, but there is the scene where he's like, did I look after myself? Yes, absolutely, I looked after myself. What would you have done, right? And I guess that's the money hungry cocksucker manager in him, right? And that's just what managers do, I suppose.
All because Eazy-E's fucking ass apparently couldn't read. So.
Yep. E was notorious for not giving 2 shits about the business side of the company, and he just wanted to rap and fuck, and that's what he did.
Can't really say I blame him. I mean,
I can't say I blame him either. He probably had an amazing couple of years when N.W.A was on the top, and yeah, I don't know. I like this movie, but your pacing issues keep it from being one of the better music film or the better biopic films, I guess.
Notorious is better. Notorious is a better film than this.
Yes.
I don't know if it's necessarily done better all around, but in my opinion,
I'd say the cast and the acting of Straight Outta Compton is superior, but you're right. Notorious is it's formed better. This movie's long too. Compare it
to that, but really, where else am I going to compare it to? That's the most similar.
That's the
style of film.
That's the closest film to this, right? I mean, I guess you could talk about I don't know. Oh, camera being all fucky. You can talk about Walk the Line and other music, biodramas, I guess. But Notorious is closer, especially with the, the down ending and all that shit. I wish my camera would just focus here. There we go. Yeah, I think I like this film better than Notorious, just for, I don't know, maybe it's just the music or the performances, but yeah, I don't know. It's long too. I think pacing wise, it could have easily been, an mini series or something. They clearly had more to say.
Yeah.
They clearly had more to say, and I think it would have made a lot more sense in that format where they would a sequel wouldn't be necessary.
Well, I guarantee you this is probably cut down by a ton.
Yeah, you could tell just the way it hops all over that there's probably a great deal of footage on the cutting room floor. And maybe a director's cut would be a little cleaner. Who knows?
I don't know. I feel like that'd be hard to sit through in one sitting.
A Lord of the Rings length gangster rap biopic. I would try. I would watch it if it was available. I would at least try it. Yeah, I don't know. What else can we talk about? Direction. We could talk a little direction if you want. This film is, of course, directed by F. Gary Gary, who has done a number of decent films. Of course, Friday. That's how we got to know Cube. And they've been working together for a number of years. He also which
it conveniently shows Cube writing in.
Yeah, I'll get to that scene. I didn't like that scene in him at all, but I'll get to that. He also directed Italian Job, Man Apart, Be Cool, Law Abiding Citizens, and apparently is in talks for Fast and the Furious 8 for some fucking
yes.
Oh, yes, sorry. But yeah, of his films, some are good. Some are not, but I think this is probably one of the better things he's done. I don't know.
A Man Apart, I'd say, is one of the better ones there, just because most Vin Diesel movies are pretty much
bad, and that's garbage. One of the best. That and
that's one of the least garbage movies.
Iron Giant's pretty good.
Pitch Black wasn't the worst, but anything that has the name Riddick in it's fucking awful.
Yes, I would agree. Anyways, I think this There is some.
Fast and Furious sucks. I had to get it out there. I'm sorry.
It does suck. You can do better. You can clearly do better. Anywho, I think this is directed well. Besides the pacing, I really enjoyed some of the scenes, especially the live performances. I think were filmed.
Yeah, those are cool.
Were filmed well. Some of the shots of Compton and like long shots down the street and stuff were pretty cool. But I think that kind of goes by the wayside as the movie progresses, as he's just trying to, hurry the story along.
I just thought of it. Lynch Mob. Lynch Mob's fucking Cubes record label. I'm an idiot. There we go.
Yes, Lynch Mob. You are right. I couldn't think of it either.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it.
Yes, it is. I wanted to mention that Friday scene because that was the most pandering bullshit I've ever that was in this movie. Because he's just like, because it ends with like this montagey thing of what everyone's kind of doing now, and after Dre was sick of Suge Knight's bullshit and wanted to go start Aftermath, and Cube was starting to have a lot of success acting and stuff like that. There's a scene of him writing Friday, and this is Ice Cube producing a movie about his son writing his movie directed by the same director of Friday. I'm like, this is some meta ass shit. Holy fuck. And he's like, you got knocked the fuck out. Yeah, that's funny. And he looks all proud of it. And I expected him to look at the camera. He's like, hi, I'm Ice Cube. You may remember me from such groups as N.W.A. and albums as America's Most. No, but like,
give me old Troy McClure.
Exactly right. It felt like that was gonna be that scene for some reason. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's a small nitpicky thing. I don't know.
Most of what we have to bitch about is except for some of the major technical issues, but
most of my problems are with pacing, trying to fit too much and too little. Otherwise, it's a pretty enjoyable film. You're gonna get more out of it if you either grew up to this music or enjoy this music. It's if you got your gangster goggles on, you're gonna see this in a little bit better light. Because the first time I watched this, I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. I love all these songs. But then I watched it again. I'm like, there's some technical issues. So it does get bonus points for having awesome music and bringing more, comedy to the table than I expected. At least with E, anyways. I found myself laughing at him all the time. I don't know. You got anything else you want to say about this film?
Not really. I mean, I feel like we pretty much summed it up. And unfortunately, I was expecting more, and it's kind of similar again. That's another reason that I compare it to Notorious. It's because I had the same sort of feeling after.
Definitely expected more from Notorious.
So, like the hype up videos, as far as the hype up videos, the hype up promos that they make beforehand for their trailers, like the trailers are, in my opinion, better than the actual film, and that is never a good sign.
No, it's not.
Look at Mad Max. Mad Max's trailers are fucking boss. The movie, even better.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's supposed to be.
Aim for that. George Miller came back to show these bitches what's up.
Mm-hmm. I want George Miller to direct every movie, including this one.
George Miller now directs everything.
Work that old man to death. Yeah, I don't know. There's more I could say, but that's pretty much the gist of it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I think pacing issues kept it from being one of the better music dramas ever made, unfortunately. I don't know. You got a score? What do you want to give Straight Outta Compton?
I've been thinking about it for the last 3 or 4 minutes while just quietly contemplating, except not quietly, but I think I'm going to have to go with a 6.5 due to some of what I think are major technical issues as far as the editing, and I don't know if it was just in the concept to do it that way, so that's the problem. Until we see if there's a director's cut or something like that, then maybe I would know. But if that was the plan to pace it like that, then that's just a terrible decision from day one. So I was gonna give it a 7, but I drop it to 6.5.
Yeah, that's your points are very valid. I was gonna bring it in at 7.5, an enthusiastic 7.5 if you enjoy this music and this story at least. But you're right, the technical issues are what I don't know. They didn't lower it that much for me, but they definitely kept it from being a classic, especially a classic music film. But I hope people enjoy it, or at least it gets more interest in this type of movie, because eventually someone's got to do this story right, or one of these stories right. But I don't know how.
Let me explain, in my opinion, I guess the way that I would word why I see it as such a big problem in regards to how I usually will judge a movie, where I'm like, okay, this part sucked. I'll give it a 7.5 or an 8 or a 9. You know what I mean? With, like, for instance, just, a normal linear storyline.
Yes, we do nitpick.
In my opinion, when you're doing something like this, it's basically, the way they made it is a fictionalized documentary, essentially.
Yeah.
To me, that is what makes it bogus. And when you have actors that aren't, like, for instance, the guy that played Suge Knight, R. Marcos Taylor, I mean, they're just not.
I guess we didn't talk about him, but yeah.
They're just not there. there's nothing.
Suge, I mean, the guy who played Suge looked scary, but he certainly didn't act awesome.
Yeah.
He did kind of look like Suge, but
if you're gonna do it like that, if you're gonna do it like that, you need to be spot on, in my opinion, to actually make it decent. Because to me, this isn't something that's worth watching more than once. Mm-hmm. It is worth watching, and especially if you don't know anything about N.W.A. or have never even heard of them. If you're fucking 15, whatever, but. Actually, they would have heard of them if they're 15. They would have been around 2000. I don't know. Either way. However fucking old you are. If you lived under a rock, you don't know who the fuck N.W.A. is. You definitely should check it out. If you're a fan of N.W.A.
The Chronic?
Yeah. If you're a fan of N.W.A., it's going to be one of those Blu-rays that you buy. You watch it the one time when you're all fucking drunk. It's never going to leave your shelf again.
Mm-hmm. It is fun to do that. If you have a couple drinks with some friends, especially if you love the music. Yeah, I will say that's
my opinion.
That's pretty solid. I have watched more than once, but you're right. I don't think I'll be, continue watching it as I do some of my favorite films. But it definitely has value to be watched at least once, especially over a couple drinks and some smoke with your friends on the couch. It's gonna be a good time. It's a fun movie that way, and at the very least it'll get you bumping some Straight Outta Compton or some California Lovin' or some N.W.A. or some shit, because for at least a couple days I was listening to some old school after I watched this film, and I think that's its best benefit is to make you remember all this awesome old school rap shit. And that's not necessarily a great thing to say. That's the best part of your movie is nostalgia.
That's it.
It's not. It's not, but unfortunately it does help this film, in my opinion. It helps it. But yeah, I'd give it a 7.5. You give it a 6.5.
6.5. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Thank you for watching our review of Straight Outta Compton. My name is the Habitual Pixel. This is my co-host, Big Nasty Productions. And we do this pretty much on a weekly basis. I try. I'm slacking a little bit. But, yeah.
Me too.
Subscribe to us if you enjoy what we do and want to hear more reviews, because we have plenty of material in our old backlog. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye-bye.